All right, y'all, we back again. Chef Keelan Burke here, and today I'm going to do something that is really near and dear to my heart. Again, as being someone who grew up, born and raised in New Orleans, I'm going to make gumbo today, but I'm going to definitely put a twist on it. And I know it may be sacrilege for a lot of people, but I also very much love ramen. And today we're going to make some ramen from scratch, like actually make the mix. We're going to roll out some noodles. And what I'm going to make today as well, outside of a traditional gumbo, we're going to make ramen love with gumbo. Because I am in love with gumbo, but it's going to be ramen. You feel that? Do you understand the joke? Ramen love, I'm in love. Okay. Anyway, it might be a little corny. But yes, that's what we're going to do. We're going to make ramen and gumbo together. And we're going to also do a traditional gumbo. So, just check this out and enjoy. All right, so of course, we're gonna do things and we're gonna try to make sure we do it in a good, timely manner. One thing you're gonna definitely have with your gumbo is rice. So the first thing we're gonna do is gonna put our rice on. Here, using a rice cooker. What I have here is just pretty much we're using jasmine rice, and I have a few thyme leaves in there to just give it a good aromatic smell and flavor. I'm also gonna just put in a few grinds of salt in there as well. And I am also gonna do just a little dab of oil just to give us, that way we don't have it just super sticky. And then we're gonna add our water. And I'm gonna add just a little bit more. Just a little bit of water in there. And we're gonna put this on our lid, and I got a rice cooker right behind me. And while that's going, takes usually about 20, 30 minutes. We're gonna start on a few other things. All right, next thing we're gonna do, this ain't there, I understand, this is another sacrilege, but this part is gonna go with our ramen love with gumbo. We're gonna take some fresh corn. Most people, I've seen people, they'll shuck it first. I always like to just keep it in the hull. That way the moisture from the corn, the moisture from the husk as well kind of helps cook that corn. So I just keep it whole like this. We're going to take it out and we're going to shuck it. I already have you make sure your oven is preheated to about 325, 350. And we're going to let this go for about 45 minutes. So we're going to get that in the oven as well. All right, so now we got our rice cooking, we got our corn going. Now definitely the best part of the gumbo, we got to get the roux going. Without roux, it's not gumbo. Your roux has to be nice and dark. This is one of those things. It takes time, usually 25 to 30 minutes. Some people take longer depending on how low they may have their heat. But this is how we're going to roll with this. So again, we're going to start off with a little vegetable oil. And I'm going to turn on my induction cooker. We're going to start with a little bit of oil. And what you're typically looking for with your roux is you want about the same amount of oil and flour in weight. So not necessarily in volume. So you don't want a cup of oil and a cup of flour. You usually just want it to be about the same amount in weight. So we're going to get started by adding our flour to our oil. And for those who have already seen our video with crawfish etouffee, this is pretty much the same process, except we're going to take this and we're going to push it significantly further to where we get a nice darker color roux. It's definitely a different type of smell on that too. So you'll notice it's still a little runny. I want it to just get a little thickened. Yeah, I like that thickness right there. Just a little bit more, and I think we're good right there. So it's almost, you see, it's more like a paste. It's not just super runny, but it's still kind of holding its shape. This is what we're gonna rock with that right there. So get my flour back to the side. And when you're starting a roux, when you're at the beginning of your roux like this, you know, certain moments it's okay to let it just sit and cook for a little bit. But there's going to be a certain point in time where we're not going to be able to stop stirring. Like, we're going to have to make sure we keep it stirring. This is one of those things where you do not want to leave your pot while it's going. This isn't something you can just put on and leave, right? So now I think I got that nice and whisked and blended. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to change my utensil to a nice wooden spatula. You can use a rubber spatula if you have that one as well. Just make sure it's real resistant to high heat. You don't want to melt anything in your roux. But we're going to use this good wooden spatula, and we're just going to, we got a nice flat one so we can make sure we could clean the bottom. And essentially what's happening right now with the roux is of course your flour is real, you know, it's like a powder, but you know, if you was to look at it microscopically, you know, it's still granules. It's just real fine. And what that oil is typically doing, your fat, is it's toasting the flour. And, you know, if you also know anything about thickeners like flour is a thickener. You got cornstarch as a thickener, potato starch. There's so many different starches out there that are thickeners. But once we add an actual liquid, it's going to gelatinize and it's going to get thick. But right now we just want to toast it. It's almost just like if you were toasting seeds, toasting nuts, anything like that. But in this situation, we're just toasting that flour until we get a nice dark color. And again, this just takes a while. Now, another thing you want to do is before you start on your roux, you want to make sure you have your mirepoix ready, the Holy Trinity. So I got some celery, I got some onion, also got some bell pepper, red and green. I also have some garlic that's going to go with this as well. That way, as soon as you get the doneness of your roux the way you want it, you don't have to, you know, you can keep going with the cooking process. Like I say, you just got to keep on stirring. And I promise you, this is really just this is definitely the longest process of gumbo, to be honest. But it's so worthwhile. All right, so this is about a color that we're looking for. We've got nice and dark. If you remember exactly, wasn't too long ago, it was nice and it looked like the color of flour and oil. But now we're nice and dark here. I'm happy with this color. You can go a little darker if you want. I've seen people, again, you don't want to push it too far to where now you're burning it, but this is now past that nutty flavor where now it's getting just, you smell more of a toasted flavor now. So again, our next step is going to be, we want to add that Holy Trinity to, and you hear that sizzle that lets you know it's still good and hot. Let's get all of that out of there. And typically, when you do your Trinity, you want about 50% onion, 25% celery, and 25% bell pepper. That's pretty much what we got there. And we're gonna give that a stir. And immediately, pretty sure my lovely producer, Mr. Young Life himself, can smell these onions and these bell peppers, celery already sauteing. And see, now I've seen people where they will add their stock and let that stock go, and then they add their mirepoix. I like to get, this is still like a saute because again, there's no water in here. The only water you're gonna get now is just from the vegetables as a natural set of water, but I don't want to add any stock yet. I want to kind of saute and cook these vegetables in that oil and that roux for a little bit. Trying to turn my timer off. There we go. And I always, you know, I talk to my team. I have a team I work at the hospital with. And I always tell them, you know, whenever you're searing something or you're cooking something, if you put it in a pan and you don't hear that sizzle, your pan ain't hot enough. But again, with that roux and already having your stuff ready, you don't have to worry about reheating your roux if your stuff isn't ready and then you're trying to chop everything. So that's why we went straight with it like that. And now that that's cooked a little bit, I got some garlic, some nice fresh chopped garlic right there. Gonna use about 3 tablespoons. We're gonna get that incorporated as well. Oh, it smells good, man. I love it. It's always something about that Holy Trinity smell. Toasting and sauteing with that toasted roux. A nice dark brown roux. All right. I'll continue to let that cook. All right, so this is one of the things I've learned during my journey working with other chefs, working at country clubs, restaurants, and whatnot. This here is a special spice blend, urban spice blend, specifically for gumbo. So as you could maybe just pretty much call this a really good gumbo seasoning. So what we have in here, some kosher salt. We got some black pepper, some white pepper. We got dried oregano, dried basil, some dried thyme. We also got some gumbo filet. If you don't know anything about filet, that is actual sassafras leaf, dried sassafras. And it's something that filet is just, without filet, it's just not the same good type of flavor without it. So I highly recommend, unless you're allergic or something, to get some filet. We also got some, a little bit of cayenne, and I want to say that's about it. That's all we have in here. So what I'm going to do, I want to add just a little bit to it right now too. That's going to kind of also toast those herbs. It's going to pretty much toast that seasoning as well. And we're going to add just a little bit. Again, we're not going to go crazy with it right now, because remember, we do still have some salt in there. But this is just to kind of get just another layer of flavor. And you're also starting to, you may notice that roux is now starting to thicken, because like I said, the natural water that comes out of onions and celery and bell pepper is helping that gelatinize now. And while that's toasting, now we're going to add our vegetable stock. And I'm going to twist over to, we got about, let me take my time, make sure I don't make no mess. Who tightened that up so much? All right, so when you start adding that stock, you're gonna notice it's gonna get really thick. And I always like to add the stock while I'm using a whisk to make sure we don't have too many lumps of roux. So I add just a little bit first. Like to stir that in. I'm gonna add some more. Stir it in. As like I said, you can see it's real thick. And we don't want to, we want a little bit of body to gumbo, but you don't want it thick like a stew. So I add the rest of that. Straight in the pot. the rest of that again. Wait again, we got more. So now we're gonna add the rest of our vegetable stock. And put this down again, don't want to make a mess. There we go. I'm gonna run the rest of that stock in there. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna let that, definitely gonna let that cook. All right, so we now have our shrimp stock has been nice and cooked. It's nice and fragrant. You even see that nice steam coming over there. I'm allergic, but it does smell good. It smells delicious. And we also have our gumbo broth right here. And we are gonna do a little bit of a strain, but that's pretty much a nice, again, not too thick, still has a little bit of body, right? So we're gonna cover that so it can still keep its good temp. So we're at the stage now where we're gonna complete our traditional gumbo. And what we're gonna do first is we're gonna I like to start off with getting the sausage cooked so you get that nice fat from that andouille sausage that we're using. But then we're gonna take that fat from that sausage and we're gonna cook our chicken. We're gonna add our broth and then we're gonna add our shrimp. So we're gonna take just a little bit. You don't need a lot because like I said, there's already enough fat in there. So we just put just a little bit in there and we're gonna start off again with our sausage. And it's okay, we got this induction cooker. It's gonna start sizzling. See, it didn't take too long. Get our sausage in there. And it's gonna draw up. It's gonna get little small pieces in there. We're gonna start to seize up a little bit. So it looks like a lot right now, but it will shrink down. It's just cooking nice and good. We're gonna add our diced chicken thighs. Chicken thighs, not chicken breasts, chicken thigh. Now, if you're doing this a super old traditional way where you're using the whole chicken, that's a whole nother story. But thighs are just way more juicier. And it's really hard to dry them out. You don't want to feel like you're chewing on sawdust with all of that good flavor. So we're getting a lot of that fat starting to come out of that sausage. We're gonna add our chicken to that. And we're gonna let that chicken cook in there as well. You know, our broth's been cooking for a good little minute. So we know when we add it, we know it already has flavor, but now it's gonna pick up that flavor from that sausage, the seasoning that we had on that chicken, which is just a simple Cajun and blackening type of seasoning. So, you know, we're not necessarily making blackened chicken right now. So since that's already now pre-cooking, what I'm gonna do before we add our shrimp and our gumbo broth, I'm gonna add some of this shrimp stock to our mix. All right. I'm gonna let that cook. But this right here, you could discard with that. You don't need that anymore. So I'm gonna just put that to the side right there. And now you see that's cooking. Again, if wish you were here, wish you could actually smell it. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna also take some of our gumbo broth. And we're gonna add that to it. And remember, we're only doing it this way because, you know, it's 2025. People have, you know, all kinds of diet restrictions, you know, depending upon their health or just their preference, right? So this way, if you got, you know, if you got a family of many and they all have different types of ways they want their food cooked, you know, this is the way to do it. Another thing we can't have without, we got some fresh okra. We're gonna cut this up. We're just gonna add a few to our batch. Where I leave my knife right behind me. And I'm just gonna take a few of these. I'm just gonna make a few slices. We're not gonna add a whole lot of okra, but just enough. Fresh okra. I'm gonna do about one more. You see, we got a nice little boil. Let's turn it down again to a little simmer. Yes, sir. While that's simmering, so for our ramen love, I got same thing. It's the same ingredients, but I'm not gonna just add it to the broth because we wanna have that nice garnish. We wanna make a nice pretty bowl. So I got the same ingredients, minus the shrimp that we haven't added yet, but we're gonna get this in the oven so we could cook it. And that way we're gonna slice our chicken. Our shrimp is gonna be nice and pretty. Our sausage is gonna be nice and roasted. And then we're also gonna add a couple of other garnishes, some vegetable garnishes with that as well. So we're gonna get this in the oven. I got this preheated at 375. So while that's rolling, this is almost about done. See, we're gonna skim it just a little bit. And what happens, you normally could see about that flour that's in that roux. You can kind of see it around the edges right there. See where it's nice and it's pretty white. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this and we're gonna kind of skim all that little excess starch and that foam that's coming up to the top. Because we don't want that. I'm gonna turn down just a little bit one more time. And now, this is a good time for us. We're gonna start dropping off our shrimp. This is how you know you're getting towards the end. Got some shrimp in there. Go in there. You can turn up a little bit. We don't want that shrimp to cool us down. And again, I always like to brag on my peeling skills. We still got that tail. Most people don't get that extra tail right there. Just take your time taking off that tail. You get every bit of piece of meat. You don't miss out on any shrimp. We got that in there. I wash my hands. And we also have we got two more proteins we're gonna add because again, we want a nice gumbo. And you know you're pretty much about done once your shrimp is cooked, but we still got a little time on that. And the good thing is these last proteins that we're adding are already pretty much pre-cooked. So I got us some crawfish tails. We're gonna Add some of that to that. We're gonna save some for our ramen love with gumbo too. So it's a nice, get you a nice seafood gumbo with a little bit of everything in it. And then we got one more that we're gonna add. And I got us some crab meat. So we're gonna do a little bit of crab as well. So all we're looking for now pretty much is for, you know, because that crab and that crawfish is already pretty much kind of cooked already. We just want to make sure that shrimp now gets well cooked. Gonna wipe the corners over there. Gonna turn it up just to get a little bit of heat again. Smelling good to you, man? Let's go. So I'm gonna prep. Let's get a little bowl prepped for our gumbo. So this is our rice that we had in our rice cooker earlier. We're just gonna take out that thyme. And you could discard that. You don't need it no more. And a few leaves are gonna stick around. That's pretty cool too. That's fine. I like it. That way it gives it a little bit of a herby looking flavor to it. And one of the things I think a lot of people don't think about when they're cooking their rice in a rice cooker is, you know, don't be so quick to get your rice out. Let it sit and stand for a little bit. That way, what happens is it'll release from the bottom. Sometimes you ever try to cook rice and you're trying to get the rice at the bottom, it's all stuck at the bottom. Sometimes you just let it rest, let it absorb all the liquid, and then it comes, you know, really clean off the bottom. I'm not having to scrape the bottom at all, but this is pretty much our herb jasmine rice. You can see we're starting to get some more of that foam. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna extract a little bit more of that from the top. Get all that foamy foam out of there. Man, I feel like this smells just reminds me of being at home with the family. Now, what I'm gonna make sure not to do, because somebody like me who is, you know, allergic to shellfish, I'm gonna make sure I never dump this back in there until I clean it. Because yes, I would get very, very sick. But you come around, look at that shrimp. Look at those big old beautiful shrimp. Big beautiful shrimp. They got chickens all nice and cooked in there. We got, I mean, just look at that. Right? So I think it's about time for us to get in there. See, make it do what it do. So we're gonna get our bowl in there. Let's get a good and big shrimp back. Come here, baby. Nice big old shrimp. And you see, the way I look at it is, you might as well make one big bowl of gumbo, because you make a small one, you're just gonna go back and you're gonna go make another bowl anyway. So you might as well just make one nice sized bowl of gumbo, nice amount of rice, and get that down in there. And what we're gonna also finish it off with is just some more green onion. Gonna turn that off. And this right here is our traditional gumbo. Now we don't have, you know, whole crab, but again, for those who don't like to have to get their hands dirty while they're eating, just depending on who you are, this right here, you know, you can't go wrong with that, man. I wish I could eat it though, but man, I'm telling you, it smells so good. It looks good. You know, I'm definitely gonna feed my producer today. I think he's gonna definitely enjoy this. But we're gonna put this one to the side, and now we're gonna work on getting our ramen love with gumbo. And that's the one I can't wait for as well.